Hello, my name is Joe Essie, and it is my privilege this evening to introduce to you Verdit Szmulewitz. When I was informed that Verdit wanted me to introduce her, I was truly honored. She is a very special young person, and it means a great deal to me to share a little bit about her with you this evening. Verdit is a unique individual. She does things her way. She takes risks, and she's willing to bet on herself. She's an authentic person and will tell you exactly what she thinks at all times. While this approach can backfire on her at times, it's also the reason I believe she is destined for great things in the future. There's an image of Verdit that sticks in my mind. She was in 3rd, maybe 4th grade, and I would see her in Akiba's hallways wearing a leather jacket and a black hat with the word rebel prominently displayed. I've always thought of a rebel as someone who is willing to challenge the world around them and live their life differently than others. That image of her is ingrained in my mind because it perfectly encapsulates who I believe Verdit is. I've known Verdit since she was a 1st grader in Mrs. Rapp's class. One thing I noticed right away was an acute awareness of how others perceived her. Verdit often believed that her peers doubted her and doubted her abilities. She responded by doing everything she could to prove them wrong. This was a common theme throughout Verdit's time at Akiba. It could be referred to as having a chip on her shoulder, or it could be defined, as I see it, as incredible perseverance and strength. Verdit was consistently determined to prove her doubters wrong. I saw this in particular playing basketball. Verdit was on the basketball team throughout her middle school time. She was constantly striving to become a better basketball player, always asking for ways to improve herself. Coach Moss really challenged her as an 8th grader, and she responded with her finest season. At our end of the year celebration, I spoke about each player, highlighting their strengths and what they brought to the team. When it came to Verdit, I spoke about her leadership as our captain. I mentioned her ability to impact the game despite not being the biggest, the strongest, or the fastest. Apparently, the part she picked up on was not being the strongest, because less than 10 minutes later, I saw her challenging a host of middle schoolers to arm wrestling competitions. She was determined to prove my assessment of her strength wrong, which, by the way, she did, beating every single challenger. As much as she appreciates being challenged, Verdit also loves to challenge others. Although I had known her for 3 years as a teacher's aide, I got my first chance to directly teach Verdit in 4th grade with math. For the first month, every day was a battle with her. She challenged everything I did, demanding justification for every assignment and every decision. About a month later, she did loosen up once she learned that I actually did know what I was talking about. But her willingness to challenge authority was always there, keeping me and the other teachers honest. Verdit also likes to challenge herself. I taught her math in 5th grade, and I had a system that allowed students to progress at their own pace. Verdit was unhappy being in that class as she believed she belonged in a more challenging class. And she saw this as another example of us not believing in her, and she was determined to prove us wrong. She worked incredibly hard, and her math knowledge greatly improved. She carried that momentum into 6th grade, where she was taught by Mr. Amiel. He also recognized her talent, he challenged her, and she absolutely flourished. As an 8th grader, she is now in one of the hardest math classes. Another thing you should know about Verdit is she is an excellent leader. She's incredibly empathetic. She advocates for what is right, and she speaks up against injustice. She earned the right to be the captain of the basketball team, and led the team to the most successful season in Akiba's history. She was a leader on and off the court, highlighted by a conversation I had with her late in the season. Although I won't go into the particular details out of respect to her, I saw her leadership firsthand when Verdit came to me as her basketball coach and made a request that was the epitome of leadership and self-sacrifice. The final aspect I want to highlight is Verdit's artistry. She's a phenomenal artist. Anyone who has seen her artwork knows exactly what I'm talking about. She gets immense happiness from creating and truly makes some beautiful artwork. She has shared some of her best pieces on Instagram. I highly recommend checking them out. In closing, Verdit truly is a unique individual. She challenges herself and she challenges the world around her. She has overcome adversity and is extremely motivated to succeed. I don't know what path she'll take into adulthood, but I guarantee two things. Number one, it'll be interesting. And number two, we will all be better for it. I proudly present to you Verdit Szmulewitz.
I'm going to start with my thank yous so that I can get them over with quickly. To start out, I would like to thank my parents for encouraging me to always try my hardest. Thank you to my other family members that always supported me no matter what. The teachers I would specifically like to thank are Ms. Chipman for challenging me on every project, Ms. Ratfeld for making science interesting, Ms. Ramiel for making math fun, and lastly Mr. Essie for being my teacher and basketball coach and helping me become a stronger person mentally and physically. I want to thank my other basketball coaches, Coach Lee and Coach Moss, for improving my skills in basketball. I want to thank all my other teachers that I did not mention. Thank you to my amazing basketball team for making the game fun and more interesting. I always looked forward to playing with you guys, and I wish you all a great next season. The basketball team is one of my fondest memories I will take away from Akiba. It became a tight community for me and allowed me to become a leader and teach by example. The last people I want to thank are my classmates in my grade. All of you are really unique and fun to be around. I just wish I got to know you guys better this year. My Akiba experience started in pre-K. I did not remember much from my earlier years. I just remember from pre-K to second grade, I would always look forward to each and every day. In third grade, a lot of people left our grade, and that was really disappointing and all, but I feel like that's where my Akiba experience really started. I say this because that's when I first started getting homework. Now, I personally despise homework, so when I first got the additional work, I realized that this is school and not daycare anymore. Fifth grade was like a slap in the face. I went from writing paragraph essays to 5 paragraph essays. The main thing I remember from fifth grade is being extremely overwhelmed. That might be because in addition to being my first year at middle school, I had history fair. Not going to lie, history fair was crazy stressful, but it felt so great to persevere and complete the project. Once the Roman simulation came around, everything got better. The simulation was the most fun thing ever, at least for me, because we got to learn in such a creative way. There is not much I remember from 6th grade because I was still getting comfortable with the whole middle school thing. 7th grade was probably my most fun years at Akiba, for many reasons. By the time I was in 7th grade, I had a lot of friends because a lot of my classes were with the 8th graders, and that made every class super fun. I had 5 field trips, ending in Springfield. Springfield was awesome. I really felt like I got to know my grade better on the trip, and it was only 2 days. Imagine what the Israel trip would have done for us. I got to laugh at some of the boys eating a whole cabbage. Then Mr. Siegel lit a garbage fire. From that fire emerged the spit cult. Every place we went was super cool, and I learned so much. I can't compare it to the Israel trip, but I can tell you that my stomach hurt from laughing by the end of the trip. I am really sorry to all the 7th graders who missed out on this year, but I'm sure your Israel trip will make up for it. I'm going to be completely honest. My 8th grade year has not been that special. I suspect it's because of the virus. I'm honestly disappointed because I know in the past 8th grade has been really fun. The main thing I guess I would take away from Akiba is that you should always value your communities because you never know when they could be taken away. Don't take your friends for granted. You never know when a super crappy virus could change everything.